I'd like to welcome head coach of the University of Alabama, Coach Saban. Congratulations last night. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, this is off the record. Can I make a comment off the record? Somebody told me that in the press conference we had here the other day that I was shaking my leg, so therefore I was tolerating the press conference. It was on ESPN, is what I was told. I shake my leg in the meeting. I shake my leg when I'm sitting in my chair at home. I shake my leg all the time, so I must be tolerating life. So I didn't want anybody to be offended by that. I mean, I'm just one of those guys that, shake their leg all the time and rock in the rocking chair. But anyway, I'd just like to, again, thank the Tournament of the Roses and all the volunteers and committee people who make this a world-class, wonderful venue to be a part of. Probably one of the best competitive venues that, especially for football or a college football team, that I've ever been associated with, and I know a lot of people do a lot of hard work to do that. Very, very proud of our team, our players, the hard work and dedication that they went through, not just over a year long, but in their development through the years in the program at the University of Alabama, the great job that our coaching staff did. Their hard work and dedication is certainly appreciated in the development of the players and the example they set to have the kind of program that could have this kind of success. Our entire support staff, Dr. Witt, who is a very, very fine president, who has done a wonderful job at the University of Alabama improving the academic quality of the school, the image of the school, and certainly making it easier for us to be able to recruit quality athletes, and his participation has always been a positive for us. Mal Moore, who had the foresight when things weren't going so well at Alabama to build the facilities and do the things necessary that one day would be able to elevate the program again to one that got some positive national recognition. And the other thing is probably the day that I felt like something special could be sort of accomplished was the first spring game we had, and there were 92,000 people there, and probably 10 or 12,000 more that couldn't get in. I think that kind of passion, that kind of support, that kind of positive energy certainly contributes greatly to having a chance to be successful. Makes me feel very proud to add to the great tradition of the University of Alabama something significant in this time, and we feel like there's a tremendous responsibility and obligation to having a high standard of excellence in terms of what we do and how we do it because of that tradition, and it makes me feel very good that we've been able to contribute to that in a positive way.
We'll open it up for questions in the front row on the right.
Nick, what do you want the statue to say? Because apparently there is going to be one.
Well, I haven't thought about it. Terry said something about that this morning when we got up, and that was really the first time I thought about it. But in all honesty, I guess that when you're driven and you put as much into what you do as we have, not just for this year, but for 30-some years, you would hope that something you do leaves a mark, and the way you did it leaves a mark that is positive, that maybe could affect someone in a positive way in the future. And, I think that would be the most significant thing I would see from something like that.
Third row on the aisle.
Coach, you didn't seem too thrilled about the Gatorade shower last night. Kind of got you in the face, and they've been showing it quite a bit on TV, and you don't look too thrilled.
Well, it was a little chilly out. Plus, I don't know if you noticed, but our defensive players did a pretty good job of hitting, but they're not supposed to hit you in the head with the bucket either. I mean, that it was a surprise. Only I knew it was coming, but I wasn't thinking about it. So the intensity of the dump was the problem.
Far right on the aisle.
Coach Saban, two questions. First, last night immediately following the game, I talked to a 69-year-old man from Albuquerque, New Mexico, with tears in his eyes. When you're a part of something like that brings so much emotional joy to people, what's that like? And the second thing is, what would you advise Rolando McClain as far as his NFL status?
Well, first of all, I sort of mentioned the fact that really probably the thing that gives you the most positive self-gratification is seeing other people enjoy what's been accomplished, and that's certainly true for me. I think that our fans, our players, our coaches, to have the opportunity to experience this at this time, I know it means a lot to a lot of people because of the passion that they have, and that's what makes the University of Alabama a unique place. So I think that's always, to me, where a lot of the positive self-gratification comes. I won't speak to Rolando McClain specifically, but whether we recruit players, whenever we counsel players about the NFL, is I very clearly state to them that when they're eligible for the draft, if they're first-round draft picks, and we will do everything we can to find out what their draft status is, that they certainly have to make a strong consideration from a business standpoint to consider coming out for the draft. But I also strongly suggest to those who are not first-round draft picks that they should stay in school, graduate, and try to become first-round draft picks. And the reason for this is, if you ever look at the money chart from the first guy picked in the draft to the last, I mean, the money falls off the table from 1 through 30. So if you're the 50th guy picked in a draft and you can make $4 million and maybe $1.5 million of that's guaranteed, if you can be the 15th guy, you might make $25 million or $20 million and 8 or 10 of it guaranteed. It would be worth it to stay in school and graduate and make the extra $20 million. And that's usually, from a business perspective, what we try to tell players. Now, I know there's a lot of other people out there that try to convince them otherwise. And I think that, I don't want to speak for the NFL, but this new salary cap thing for next year is going to affect the guys that are picked in the first, 10, 12 picks the most, a little bit for probably the next 10, 12 picks, and probably not very much thereafter. So I know there's a lot of promotions going on out there through agents that tell guys that if they don't come out for the draft this year, they're going to lose out on a lot of money. Well, there may be 25 or 30 guys that lose some money, but the rest of them are not going to be affected.
Third row in the middle.
Coach, after you won the SEC championship, Ms. Terry, who knows you better than anybody, said she could already see in your mind, already working towards the next game as you were on the podium celebrating. Just curious, on this podium last night, how soon was your mind moving to what do you got to do next, and if you could tell us what you did to celebrate last night?
Well, I didn't do much anything, really. Sat in a room, and some of the family and friends that we had at the game, stopped by, and that's celebration enough for me. And again, it was the joy of everyone else that sort of makes you feel good. But I'm always thinking ahead, anticipating problems. Every success brings a new set of problems. Every success brings a new set of issues. Attitude of next year's team, development of the players for next year, issues that you have from a staff standpoint or player standpoint, personnel standpoint, recruiting standpoint. There's really no time to sort of let your guard down, because every success brings a new set of issues for everyone. And being able to manage that is what allows you to be successful with more consistency.
Second row on the right in the middle.
Coach, overall, given the success this season, how important do you think it will be to retain as many assistants as possible, and specifically the two coordinators who may get some interest out of this?
Right. Well, I'm always happy and interested for our players, our coaches, to be able to advance professionally, especially if it's a professional advancement in terms of a guy being a coordinator who can go be a head coach in a situation where he has a chance to be successful. I think not to have that philosophy and attitude for your coaching staff. That's what they work hard for. That's what they want to do. That's what they try to do. And that's what we would like to help them do. I'm not pleased when guys make lateral moves because it's a little bit human nature to think, like my dad used to say, the grass is always greener on top of the septic tank. You always think it's better someplace else. And, you kind of let your ego get involved, and you make moves that you shouldn't make that really aren't in your best interest from a career standpoint. So I'm not happy when guys do that, but anybody on our staff who can move up, we would like to help them, do that. It's important to have continuity on your staff, but at the same time, when somebody does leave, new energy and new ideas come to your staff, and that also can be helpful in the development of improving your system. And, I think it happened a little bit this past year. I wasn't happy that anybody left. But at the same time, the guys that came in did a wonderful job, and their energy and enthusiasm helped our team this year.
On the right.
Greg McElroy talked last night about that he was playing with some cracked ribs. How much did that affect the 32 days of preparation? How much did it affect last night's game, just what he was able to do, what he was not able to do, and was he close to coming out at any point?
No, he was not close to coming out at any point, and this is something he's had for quite a while, not just from the last game. It's something that did not show up on x-rays for a long time. He's played with it for quite a while. And we actually did a bone scan because certain times he would feel it, and it didn't go away for a long time. So when we did a bone scan, we saw an old little hairline crack in one of his ribs. Nothing dangerous, nothing that he couldn't perform with. It did not bother him in practice much, and I don't think it affected our ability to prepare for the game or his ability to prepare for the game, even though it was a little bit of a nuisance to him at times.
Second row on the right again.
Coach, just wondering about Rolando and how much did the illness affect him at all, if at all, last night?
I thought he played great in the game. He had a really good game and did a nice job of managing the no-huddle situation, and most of their NASCAR quick-pace plays were not an issue for us. And I thought he did a really good job. I thought he played well. I thought he managed the circumstances well. Some players who get out of their routine a little bit. He missed a day of practice. He didn't feel very well the day before the game. He actually took IVs for several days. Was very dehydrated. Took IV before the game and at halftime, actually. But I think it shows a lot of his maturity as a person and a competitor, not to allow that to affect his ability to go out and perform and focus on what he needed to do in the game. Pretty good for the mental toughness side of it as well.
Front row on the right.
Nick, will you shake your leg and your fist at me if I ask about the prospects of repeating next year? You'll probably go in as number one in the preseason.
Well, and I don't think that's – for all the players that we're losing on defense, And we had a team this year that really probably won because we ran the ball effectively and we played pretty well on defense for the most part. And we're going to lose a lot of players on defense. And we have some good young players, and it'll be a great opportunity for them. But, every team is different, and every team has issues and problems that you have to resolve in terms of the development of the players that you have and your ability to recruit and replace the right people and develop the right chemistry. Now, we do have a lot of good players returning on offense. Hopefully we could build on that and improve. But we're going to have a new kicker. We're going to have a new punter. We're going to have new specialists. We're going to have a lot of new things. And I think that people who make those statements sort of just look at the periphery of, well, you got Julio Jones, you got Mark Ingram, you got Trent Richardson, the quarterback's coming back, so therefore everything's going to turn up roses. And that's not necessarily the case because you got to build a team. And a team, we play 50 or 60 guys through the course of the season. And like I always say, the bottom 40 guys on your roster usually determines how good that team really is. And I don't want to criticize the media or anything because God knows I get punished enough by you guys, but you guys will look at the top 4 or 5 guys on the team and make your determination.
We got time for one more question. Front row on the left here. Okay.
Coach, you talked about last night being proud of the seniors, that they didn't necessarily sign up, but they bought in. From your perspective, what was it like for them? I mean, when you got there, how far did you have to come, both physically and mentally?
Well, I certainly don't want to make any criticisms relative to what was there going on in the past or any of those things, but just the whole work ethic, mental toughness, discipline, the intangible things that you'd like to see in players who have a chance to be as good as they can be, play as well as they're capable of playing. A lot of those things had a long ways to go, and my hat is off because there are several of those players who didn't make it that were pretty good players, and you know who they are, who would be in this class that were actually starters at some point in time that aren't on the team anymore. And there are those that played very well in the game last night and have had a tremendous amount of success in the last 2 years who did make some changes in how they went about things. And I'm not talking about just as football players now. I'm talking about as people, talking about how they represented themselves, how they walked down the street, how they talked, how they act, how they dress, the image that they project, talking about academic success and discipline in terms of doing what they're supposed to do academically and presenting the right image for the program in terms of what they represent and who they represent besides themselves, and how they developed as football players in terms of the work ethic. And I think all these things are going to affect their ability to be successful in the future as people. And I think there were a lot of lessons that our team learned even this year, even last night in the game. I mean, the best thing and the worst thing that happened in the game last night was we score with 3 seconds to go in the half. And get a celebration penalty, which I know everybody says, why would you be mad at that guy for scoring a touchdown? But I'm coaching the team to get better, and I'm not coaching the moment. And I'm coaching the things and the decisions that you need to make to play the kind of football that we're trying to get all of our players to play. But at halftime of that game, because of that circumstance, it was like the locker room after the SEC championship game. And we were very flat in the third quarter. And I had to stand up on a chair and say, this is a 60-minute game. You know, we need to refocus, recenter what we're doing, get our energy right, quit wasting energy. And you only have so much of it. You got to channel in the right direction. And I felt that affected our play in the second half. And that's not to take anything away from Texas, because their team showed tremendous resiliency and competitive spirit to keep fighting in the game. Their defense never gave up. We never got a first down in the third quarter, and they finally made a play that got them back in the game offensively. But so there's a lot of lessons to be learned in everything that we do.